We often don't think about what happens to the things we throw away, but putting the correct items in your recycling bin is more important than you think. What you do at home will determine whether your recycling can be recovered for future use. At Suez, we make it easy for you to put your waste to good use. We find smart, reliable solutions to collect, recover and recycle waste into valuable resources to help protect the environment. Today, we are going to talk about your yellow lid recycling bin and what happens to the recyclables you put into it. The only items found in your yellow bin should be made out of paper, cardboard, glass, plastic and metal. Every room in your house will have recyclable items in it, including shampoo and conditioner bottles, food and drink cans, newspapers and more. It's important to place these items in the yellow bin so they can be recycled into new products. Otherwise, they might end up in landfill. Remember to follow the instructions on your bin. Unrecyclable items are difficult to separate, creating contamination and preventing the creation of new products. These items can be placed in the yellow bin intentionally or accidentally and include soft plastics such as plastic bags and takeaway containers, mixed glass such as window panes, mirrors and light bulbs, lids from bottles and jars, even video cassettes and dirty pizza boxes. Once all the correct items have been placed in the yellow lid recycling bin, it will be taken to a material recovery facility. This is where all the different materials in your yellow bin will be separated and sorted before being sent off to become new products. After your yellow lid recycling bin is picked up at the curbside by collection trucks, all the recycling in the truck is compacted. The driver needs to be able to fit about 300 bins into each load. This means any hazardous items like gas bottles or fire extinguishers can be very dangerous if placed in the recycling bin. On arrival at the material recovery facility, the truck will unload the mixed recycling onto the floor. The load is picked up by a front-end loader and dropped onto a conveyor belt, which carries it to a pre-sorting area. In the pre-sorting area, our staff will manually remove any contamination. Items that cannot be recovered for reuse are sent to landfill, and any hazardous materials such as car batteries, gas cylinders and fire extinguishers are put aside for safe disposal. Large pieces of cardboard are removed for separate recycling in order to prevent blockage of the machinery. The remaining material continues along the conveyor belt to begin the mechanical sorting process. The first stage involves either a V-screen or a trommel. A V-screen is made up of rotating discs which separate paper and newspaper, which are flat, from three-dimensional items such as plastic bottles and containers, steel and aluminium cans, and glass bottles and jars. The paper and newspaper are lifted to the top of the screen, carried over the sides and dropped onto a conveyor belt below, while everything else tumbles down over the discs and falls onto another conveyor belt. The paper and newspaper are then carried over to the other side of the building to be sorted further, while the other recyclables continue through other machines and sorting processes. A trommel performs the same function but in a simpler way. A trommel is a long steel tube with holes along its sides. As the trommel rotates, items smaller than the holes, in this case bottles, containers, jars and cans, will fall through the holes onto a conveyor belt below, while larger items, in this case paper and cardboard, will stay inside the tube and be carried through to the other end. Once paper and cardboard arrives at the paper sorting area, it is manually separated into two streams. Paper is loaded into one truck, while cardboard is placed in a different truck. Both of these loads will be recycled, but they need to be kept separate in order to improve the quality of the recycled end products. We need to separate very small pieces of material very early in the process so that it's easier to separate the recyclable materials. We use fine trommels with very small holes to remove glass fines, mainly small pieces of broken glass, but also other small materials such as lids, bottle tops and pieces of food scraps, which have been incorrectly placed in the recycling bin. The larger pieces of glass won't fall through the holes, so they continue along the sorting process with all of the other mixed recycling. Glass fines are sent to a beneficiation plant for processing. The glass is separated from other impurities and crushed into smaller granules of various grades, which can be used in a variety of applications, including water filtration, sandblasting, artificial sand, and building materials. To separate the bigger pieces of glass, we drop recycling down a chute while blowing air across from one side. This air current pushes light items like plastic containers, aluminium cans, and any remaining paper or cardboard out of the way, while the glass, being the heaviest material in the mix, falls through and onto another conveyor belt. Glass is then sorted by hand into colours, which are then transported separately back to glass manufacturers to become new products. Glass can be recycled over and over again, but the colours have to be kept separate or it won't be possible to make the same colour glass again. Steel cans are removed using a large electromagnet, which is suspended above the conveyor belt. As material passes underneath the electromagnet, it lifts steel cans out of the stream and drops them down a chute. These cans are then crushed into bales and sent to a steel mill to be turned into new steel items. Most new steel contains at least a small amount of recycled material. Steel can be recycled over and over again. The electromagnets will lift steel cans up even if there are other items sitting on top of them. A plastic bag sitting on top of a steel can will also be picked up by the magnet and cause contamination. The more contamination we get, the less we can recycle. If you've ever put a magnet against an aluminium can, you will have noticed that the magnet didn't stick. Aluminium isn't sensitive to magnets in the same way as steel because there's no iron in aluminium. We use a special machine called an eddy current unit to separate aluminium cans. This machine uses a different kind of magnetic field to induce an electric current inside the aluminium items. Once that current is flowing inside the aluminium, the magnetic field will repel the aluminium items up and drop them onto a different conveyor belt. The aluminium is then baled and sent back to manufacturers to be turned into new aluminium items. Just like steel and glass, aluminium can be recycled over and over again. Plastic bottles and containers are removed using a machine which shines near-infrared light down onto the recyclable materials. A sensor measures the light that reflects back from the recyclables and determines which items are made from plastic. Air jets underneath the end of the conveyor belt will activate whenever a plastic item is detected, lifting the item up and removing it from the other recyclables. These mixed plastics are baled together and sent to other companies for further processing. Once all your recyclables are separated and sent away for reprocessing, they are manufactured into new products which you use every day. With your help, we can ensure valuable resources aren't lost and put your waste to good use.